Hello, it's Talia.
Hi, Talia. It's Michelle. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm in the car right now, but I'll be at my computer in a few minutes. So I thought I'd start here and I'll rush in. Oh.
Hi, good morning, everyone. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you guys so much. Sorry, I had a little bit of a issue on the train this morning. Glad I got here just before 9 so we can kick off. And as always, thank you guys very much for taking the time this morning so we can review sort of in depth the next pieces of the back-end training with you guys. We're going to delve sort of an extra layer in as we go through some of the reports and the functionalities that you guys have at the highest level of access, as well as editing the scheduler and sending emails from the system. So it's sort of same, MO as last time. Please, interrupt with questions as you have them. I have the chat box open if you want to use the chat box. Please feel free to use that as well. And again, here to make sure that you guys are comfortable and clear with this information before we get you off the call. So I want to make sure everybody sees my screen, and we will go ahead and dive in. Great.
Mine is still loading.
Go ahead.
Mine is still loading, but you can start. I'm sure it's going to work.
Great. Thank you. So creating reports. This is one of those functions that those top 3 high-level accounts are going to have access to. Again, we have access to JCC Association as well, and we've pre-designed, I would say, 99% of the reports you're going to need. Every now and then, a committee may come to you and say they would like a specific report built. So in that instance, we would go ahead, we'd go into the system, and we'd assist them in building it. Please note that once the report is built, anybody who has access to the system, as long as you save it appropriately, and we'll go through that in a moment, will have access to view this report and utilize it moving forward. So you'll see in the top right-hand side of your screen is a settings dropdown. You'll click that dropdown report, and you'll go ahead and click reports. Once you get to reports, you'll go ahead and click create a new report. You'll already see that we have categories set up. There's one category for host communities. I encourage you to utilize that category when you're saving things. Of course, if you feel that you need to create a new category and store additional reports, please feel free to do so. The only thing that we ask is that you please make it clear that they're host community reports, because again, everybody who has access to the system will be able to see these, inclusive of our visiting delegation heads, and we have a group of pre-designed reports for them. And we don't want to confuse them as we're building additional reports. So again, you have the host community category. If you'd like to add an additional, that's perfectly fine. Just please make sure that you're notating it very clearly that they're host community reports. Once you click on create a new report, you'll see sort of at the bottom of the screen here, your screen will refresh and it'll give you the opportunity to select the category you'd like to store that report in. It'll allow you to name the report, and it gives you the opportunity to add any details or remarks that you'd like about that report, which will show to everybody who's utilizing it moving forward. And you also have the opportunity, as we discussed in our last training, to set this as a quick view, which would mean every time that you logged into the system from the back end to do work and to look at your reports, when you click that reports button in that initial dropdown, you would see the report that you're currently building. Once you've done all of those steps, you're going to go ahead and hit create and add fields to the report. So similar to the way that sort of the filtering system worked and the way that we could sort of pull pieces to our filter, you're going to get the same drop-down opportunity when you're creating a report. So once again, you entered all that initial information, you've titled your report, your screen will refresh and you'll be able to select a form to add to your, or a field to add to your report. So you'll go ahead and you'll scroll down and you'll see that the system will give you the opportunity to select questions from any single one of the forms that any user is filling out along the process. So you'll see in this instance, we're going to go ahead and click on basic information. That basic information page holds all those initial key basic points of information for users. I always encourage you to put name and delegation and pieces like that, just because they're an easy reference tool as you're pulling reports. But you'll go ahead and you'll see that next to each one of the questions we ask is the opportunity to add that question to the report. You'll go ahead and you'll click that blue button that says add to the report, and that question will be added to the report. Again, you can go back at any time, and that select form to add a field from will always be there as a drop-down. You can select from as many forms as you'd like. You can select as many fields as you like. For example, we have all-inclusive reports that are pre-built in the system for everybody to use, and they include the responses to every single question of a user based on their level of participation. So again, you can add as many questions or as few questions. That's truly at your discretion as you're building your report. Once you've made sure you're adding all the questions you're looking to add, you can go ahead and click, that's it, I'm done adding fields. And then again, that report is going to be accessible underneath your reports. Please note at any point in time, reports are editable. So if you feel like you've missed one question and you want to add it, you'll simply go through the steps of selecting the report. And in the top left-hand corner, you will have an edit button, which you can go ahead, click edit, and do this process of adding any additional fields you'd like to that report. Any questions about the reporting process and building your own reports out? Great. So emailing in the system. So RegPack is designed to allow us to do a lot of fantastic things. And one of the things is mass emailing. As we sort of talked about in the beginning, we set up your volunteer or your welcome emails rather that automatically go out when a user enters the system. So with that, I want to make the distinction that there are two ways to generate emails from the system. One is that way, which is automatic emails that are based off of a user doing a specific function. So for example, once a user has completed their basic information page and indicated a certain level of participation, they're automatically getting their appropriate welcome letter. Moving forward, and I'll send you guys a recap after this call, we're going to be building additional emails into the system as they relate to volunteer reminders, orientation nights, and things along those lines. Once we get off this webinar, I will go ahead and send you guys basically a starter tool, which shows you a recommendation of all the emails, sort of the ones that we require, the ones that hosts have found helpful in the past. And I'll also be able to provide you with a bunch of examples so that you guys can use those as tools to develop your own emails for this year. I'll also include a timeline in there, so it gives you a general sense of when you want to start to work on these emails and when you'd like to get them back to me, so we can make sure they're set up in the system properly. I'll also notate that after this training, my hope is that you guys feel confident enough to go in the system and build emails on your own. With that, of course, I'm always here to help. And if you want to do, let's say you guys are ready with your first 2 emails and you want to do sort of a screen share and we can walk you through the process and make sure you're comfortable doing it, more than happy to do that with you guys as well. So similar to where we hit that drop down of settings and we clicked reports, we're going to click that same drop down, except this time we're going to go ahead and we're going to click emails. You'll see that, excuse me, one of the things that really I only have the access to do and RegPack only has the access to do, unless you guys have somebody on your team who knows how to code, is add individual photos and upload images to the emails. So as such, in order to make it easier for you guys, what we did is we went ahead and we created a template for you that includes your logo and our logo. So as you guys are generating new emails, you don't have to worry about trying to implant logos. To that, if you have any JPEGs or PDFs or anything that you would like included in that email, please feel free to send it over to me. I can go ahead and host it on the web for you, and we'll make sure that that image is put into the email appropriately. One of the things that I'll show you in a minute, because I'm going to actually take you to RegPack, I want to show you some of the emails that Fort Lauderdale did a couple of years ago. They're over the top and to a whole nother level, but I do want to show you the capabilities in the system. Again, please don't see this and think that that's what you should be producing, because again, I will be sending you guys links that show a wide variety of what other hosts have utilized in the past. But I think it's interesting to see and creative to see what the system has the capacity to do, should you be interested in going down that road. So again, what you're going to do when you log into the email management, again, I'll show you that screen live time in a second so you can see what it looks like. You're going to go ahead and you're going to see template with logo. You're going to go ahead, you're going to check the box that's next to template with logo, and you're going to click on your tools dropdown located in the top left-hand side of your screen. Once you do this, excuse me, you're going to have the opportunity to copy templates. When you click copy templates, you'll see that under the template form, a new copy of the email will appear and it will say copy of template form. When you hover over that email, you'll have the opportunity to edit the name of the email, edit the actual email text and subject line, and also to trigger the email to be sent based on certain conditions. What you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and you're going to click edit. You're going to move the email to the category that you'd like. Again, similar to reports, you'll see that we already have categories that exist for you guys as the host community. Please feel free to use those categories. Again, if you'd like, you always have the option to create a new category. As you see, you can do so by hitting that gray button up on top that says Create New Category. Again, we ask that if you're creating new categories, please just be clear in the labeling so delegation heads don't accidentally send your email to their constituents. Again, once you hover over the name of the email, that edit button will appear. You'll go ahead and click edit. The first thing we want to do is categorize our email and rename the email. So you'll go ahead and you'll title the email whatever is appropriate, and you'll go ahead and you'll put it in the correct category. Once that's done, you go ahead and you'll hit edit text. Alternatively, please note that all of the emails are auto-save and you can go back and edit it at any point in time. So you also have the opportunity to hit save and revisit that email. Alternatively, you'll notice all the way to the left is a delete option. If at any point in time you're working on an email and you decide you no longer want it, you can go ahead and click delete and that will remove it from the system. Excuse me, as we indicated before, if you wanted to create a new category, you can go ahead and utilize that new category. Again, this is sort of a blown up version of what you'll see when you copy the templates and what that email template will look like when it carries over. Emails have the ability to do something called tokening. Tokening allows us to customize an email based on each user using the information they've entered in the system. So in the example you can see below, it says, Dear Legal First Name. What this means is when this email goes out to every individual it goes to, that information will be customized. So it will say, Dear Jeremy, Dear Larry, Dear Francie, Dear Talia. It will customize that name for any user that it goes to. We can do that with any bit of information that a user enters into the system. Excuse me. So for example, and we'll talk it through in a moment, we have the opportunity to send emails with volunteer shifts triggered into the email, tokened into the email rather. That means that every user will get an individualized email with their specific shifts that they have registered for. And this is going to be one of the emails that we're going to be working on in the next couple of weeks to make sure that's set up, that as all your people are coming into the system and selecting their shifts, they're getting email confirmations that indicate their shifts. One of the things that's nice that RegPack added last year is that when users get an email confirming their shifts, they also have the opportunity to download it to an iCalendar or a Google Calendar. So it'll automatically go into their calendar and they'll get reminders as they're getting close to their shifts. In order to add a token, you'll go ahead and you'll hit the Add Token button located in the top right-hand side of your email template. Please note that this email template is completely malleable. You'll be able to adjust the subject line and anything in the body of the email. Again, please be careful. If you delete the logos and things like that, you're going to have to start from scratch. So just sort of pay attention to it. But again, if you do accidentally delete it, not a problem. That template exists. You can go ahead, go back to the beginning, create a new template with the logos, and go from there. Again, in order to add a token, you'll click the Add the Token button. At that point, a drop-down will appear, which shows you a variety similar to filtering earlier. You can hit Go to Form. You'll be able to select any form that a user has completed as it correlates to their level of participation. You'll then be able to click Go ahead and add this token, and that will appear in the body of the email. Again, in this example, we're using that legal first name. Once you've gone ahead and entered your tokens, you've made sure you've changed the subject line of your email, you've read over the body of your email, you have the opportunity to view an example. When you do this, you'll click that, it's a blue button in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and your screen will refresh and a pop-up will appear with exactly what the email will look like in full formatting. Once you've gone through that and you are content and you're happy with the way your email looks, you'll go ahead and you'll hit save. At that point in time, we have the option to decide to send our emails in two ways. One is by triggering, and one is by manual send. In order to trigger, we're telling the system that we want this email to be sent to specific users at a specific time based off of their specific action in the system. So you're going to go ahead, and the same way when you hovered over the name of the email, you saw edit email text. You'll also see trigger. You'll go ahead and you'll select trigger. And then you're going to choose your setting options. A drop-down will appear with the name of your account, jccmaccabi@jcca.org, and additional admins. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you guys about is creating this additional admin account in order to send these emails. There are two options. you can utilize jccmaccabi@jcca.org, and what will happen is any emails that are relevant will be forwarded to you directly once we've received them. Alternatively, you have the opportunity, if you'd like, to generate a overall JCC Maccabi Detroit at detroit.org, whatever you'd like, to be an email address, at which point we can connect that to the system. We can give that email an account, and that way any users who reply to your emails, it will go directly to that email and you guys can manage that process yourself. So that's something I do encourage you to think about. If it's something you guys are comfortable managing, we always encourage host communities to go that way, just because we don't want things to slip through the cracks, and the last thing we want to do is not provide your community with the best customer service possible. At the same time, we understand you guys have a lot on your plate, and we are more than happy to sort of manage that process for you and forward you things along as they come in. So you will select the user that you want the email to be sent from. Again, you'll have the option to select yourself, currently jccmaccabi@jcca.org, or other admins. Please don't click other admins. It's basically going to give you the opportunity to send it from any delegation head. We don't want to send things on behalf of delegation heads. We're going to let them manage that process on their own. Then you're going to select that you want the email sent to users. If you'd like yourself CC'd and copied on all of these emails, you can also go ahead and select me. Again, then I want you to pay attention to send only once. You're going to want to make sure this button is clicked. We don't want to flood people's emails and inboxes with the same email over and over again. So for example, let's say we're setting our event to when a user completes a form. Well, let's say that user goes in and then edits that form. Because that user has gone in and done that form again, unless we've clicked send only once, the system is going to regenerate that email and resend it to that user for the second time. So we want to avoid that at all costs whenever possible, and that's done by clicking send only once. Once that's done, you're going to tell the system what events need to happen and what emails would you like this to go to. So when you click users, you'll see that select email fields will appear. This will give you the opportunity, and it will present you with all of the locations that a registrant has entered their email during their registration process. You can see it's a welcome email. It's going to be, that contact information email on that basic information page. It's going to be for any of our teens, the parent and guardian information, and there's also emergency contact information. Our recommendation from a national level is always welcome login and basic information. The caveat to that is if you're communicating with teens in your community, we always encourage you to put the parent or guardians on the communication as well. So again, the caveat there is if you're talking to minors in your community, we encourage parent or guardian to be added on. But if you're talking to the volunteers and the adults in your community, welcome and basic information are the ones to make sure you're staying with. So now we've told the system where we want the email to come from, who we want the email to go to, that we want it to only send once, and now we're going to tell it what things have to happen in order for that email to go out. So the same way that when we were building filters in the front and when we were building filters in the back end from our last training, when we were learning how to manipulate information for the system to show us what we want to see, it's going to be the same process when you're sending the emails, when you're setting the trigger. So again, we're telling the system, based on forms and fields, what do we want a user to do in order for this email to be sent out? So for example, here we're saying we want to go by forms. When a user has completed their host family questions, we would like them to get an email that says XYZ. So we've gone into the system, we've used this tool to set up the email dispersal, and we're saying forms, when housing questions are complete, we're making sure that shows up under selected events. Again, if we're adding layers, same way we were when filtering, we're being aware of all conditions are required versus any condition is sufficient. And once we've made sure everything is there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to hit that's it, I'm finished. Once your trigger has been applied, you're going to see a little lightning bolt that appears next to the email. At any point in time, if you'd like to edit this, you can hit a drop down that you sort of hover over that electric bolt, and a drop down will appear that will show you what your conditions are, and you can go ahead and hit edit trigger or delete to remove that trigger at any point in time. Any questions about the emailing process?
I have a question, Dina. So I'm kind of trying to follow along while I'm in RegPax, and I click on the email thing. My email thing is grayed out. Is that going to be ungrayed, or is that just like a kind of a cautionary thing now?
Nope, so that's going to be grayed out. As I explained to Jeremy beforehand, and I'm sorry if it wasn't clear with everybody, these are going to be those top 3 admin accounts that have the opportunity to do this. What you'll be able to do with your account is send the emails, and I'm actually going to take us live into RegPax now to show you how to do that. So what will happen is that those top 3 accounts will have to build the emails for you, and then you'll be able at any point in time to generate the sending of those emails.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, so I want to take you guys quickly into RegPack. Thanks for bearing with me. All right, I want to make sure everybody sees my RegPack screen now, correct?
No, I don't see it. I still see creating a shift, new shift in the scheduler.
All right, let's see. How about now?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you very much. So again, as you can see, as we sort of talked about, those triggers that'll show up next to an email will indicate that that trigger is set at any point in time. You can edit that trigger, or you can remove that trigger. Again, we've sort of pre-designed categories for you, and you can see all of your welcome emails are already triggered and going out. Your spectator welcome is triggered to go out, and you'll see that there's a variety of other emails that host communities have utilized. They'll be able to edit and adjust for you guys customary. Excuse me. So let's say we decided we want to send an email to all of our host family members and just our host family members. So the same way that prior to running reports, we want to make sure that we're applying a filter to the system and telling the system the users we'd like to see, we can do the same thing here. So we're going to go ahead, and again, as we talked about, those pre-designed filters are in here for you. So we're going to say we only want to send emails to the primary household members. Hey, mazel tov, guys. You guys already have 54 host families, head of household signed up. One of me was the test, so we're going to make that 53. You guys can go ahead, and you'll go in here, and you'll search for the users you want. You'll go ahead and select all, and you'll notice once you select all, up here in the top right-hand corner, Send Messages appears. When Send Message appears, you have that same opportunity to select to who you're sending it to. So again, we're looking at those head of household, those primary household registrants. So we're going to want to send to login the basic information. We're going to click Select. We're going to select the email that we want to send. We're going to make sure that it reads correctly. Again, our logos are in here. You'll see that that trigger is customizing the email. Up here, you want to make sure that it's sending from the email that you'd like to send to. So again, if you're using that overall generic email, you're going to want to make sure it's there. And if not, you're going to want to make sure Maccabi is there. If not, again, all of those responses are going to come to your personal email address, and we don't want to do that if at all possible. And again, you'll be able to then click Send to All, and that email will be sent to everybody. At any point in time, if you want to change the template that you're working with, you can do so by going to the Change Template dropdown. Also, at any point in time, if you'd like to send one individual user an email, so let's say, for example, Ms. Schwartz went in and she registered as a volunteer, and something came up and she went ahead and she switched all of her shifts, and we want to resend her her confirmation email. You can go ahead and you'll click on the individual user. Again, you'll see in the top right-hand corner, Send Message appears, and you'll scroll down to the message that you want to send, and you'll be able to send that to the individual user. Again, you're going to make sure it's sending to the right places. You're going to make sure your subject is correct, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to send that email. Any questions about the emailing process? Great. So we're going to dive into creating a new shift in the scheduler. And again, guys, I will be sending you a copy of this PowerPoint. I will be sending you the recording of our training, and I'll be sending you a variety of additional documents that will help you as you're navigating the scheduler in the process. So as you guys know, you sent us an Excel spreadsheet with a variety of your volunteer shifts, which we call time units or slots and shifts in the system, and they've all been uploaded on your behalf. Inevitably, you will find that there are alterations that need to be made to those shifts. You initially thought you needed 40 people, you now need 20. You initially thought you were going to need 4 shifts of one thing. Now you realize none of them are necessary, and a different category of volunteers are going to take that over. So everything in the scheduler is malleable. You can go ahead and create new shifts. You can go ahead and edit existing shifts. You can delete shifts. And again, you can sort of anything that you need to do, you can do here in the system. So when you're creating a new shift, what you're going to do is that same drop down where we saw our reports and our emails, you're going to go ahead and click on Scheduler. You're going to go ahead and click Create a Time Unit. It's going to be the blue box located in the top right hand of your screen. Once you do that, you'll see the box on the lower right hand part of our screen appear where it's asking you to put in the information as it correlates to a specific shift. So you're going to choose the schedule. This is going to be the category that shift falls into. For example, is it athletics? Is it water and ice? Is it safety and security? You're then going to title your shift and give it a label. You're also going to give it the date that the shift is happening and the start time and the end time. You're also going to put the location in. One thing that we have to be careful about with the location is that you need to make sure the location mimics the same language that you use on that initial upload sheet. For example, let's say you're doing something at Marymount College, and the first time you uploaded the shift, you spelled out Marymount College. But now you're creating a new shift, and you just put MC for Marymount College. The system will not identify them as the same location, and when you do your filtering option in your scheduler, MC and Marymount College are going to be two different locations. So you want to make sure that you're referencing that initial volunteer shift upload form when you're creating new ones to make sure the language and location is the same. And if you guys would like, of course, I'm more than happy to resend you that initial list so everybody has it at easy reach as they're building out any new additional shifts. You're then going to put a little bit of information and a description about the shift. This can be as basic as this shift involves standing, this shift involves sitting. You want to make sure that the basics are clear to a user as they're going in and selecting their shift, if that shift has any physical restraints on it, or for example, maybe outside. You're also going to select how many slots and how many individuals you need for that volunteer shift. Again, those are click up, click down arrows, which should make the process relatively easy. You'll then notice that on the right-hand side, you have an admin-only unit and a locking opportunity. Admin-only unit is going to be for your higher-end volunteers, for your venue directors, for your commissioners, for the people who are going to be with you all day in a specific role. It's also going to be for your medical team, for the people who have shifts that are going to be specifically taken by doctors and people who have higher level roles. What this does is it basically ensures that any individual who goes in to register as a volunteer is not going to be presented this specific shift. What will happen is that user will register. You'll say, all right, Dr. Joe, once you've registered, please let us know. Don't select your shifts. You guys will then go into the back end, and as we reviewed in our last training, and happy to review at any point in time along the way if guys have questions, you will go ahead and you will add Dr. Joe into that specific shift. He will then get the email with a reminder, and again, he'll be able to download that to his phone, but you guys will be the ones physically putting them in those shifts because they're higher level, and we want to ensure that the right people are going into those right shifts. Additionally, you'll see that there's a lock button, and then our next couple of screens will show you what it looks like once it's set to lock, but our sort of wise words of wisdom is always to lock a minimum of 72 hours out. What this does is it means that, let's say it's the day before my shift and I decide I don't want to go. I can't log into the system and simply delete that shift. In theory, I'm picking up the phone and I'm calling my volunteer coordinator to say, I'm not making it tomorrow. So it, in theory, eliminates that opportunity to just not show up. With that, of course, we're going to have people that simply do not show up. It's the nature of the beast. But this, we feel, at least sets us up for a little bit better success than if they had the opportunity to go ahead and go in there and just remove shifts directly prior to them having to be there. Editing a shift. Again, anything that exists in the system is malleable and editable. You'll go ahead in the same way that we showed you in the back end if you're editing a user's scheduler. You're going to go ahead and go to filter options. You're going to drop down and you're going to find the filter and you're going to find the schedule that you're looking to update using those filter options. Once you find that scheduler, you're going to go ahead and hover over it and you'll see the opportunity to edit. Once you click edit, you'll go ahead, you'll go in, you'll make any adjustments that you need to. Again, 9 times out of 10, the adjustments are adding or removing slots or because you've realized you don't need that shift anymore. You'll see also to the right-hand side now what it looks like when you've locked that shift for 72 hours. You simply slid to on and you've entered 72 hours. Again, also know that you can delete a shift at any time by simply clicking that delete button. Something that's important to keep in mind, if you're going to delete a shift, first we always want to make sure has anybody signed up for this shift. And you can see that, and if you want, I will show you guys live in the system. You can see that simply by hovering over a shift. It will show you next to it how many people have taken that shift versus how many shifts are still available. So I'll actually scoot my screen over for 1 second so I can show this to you guys. So you can sort of see here that the numbers that correlate here will show you how many shifts are available and how many shifts have been taken. So in the example that we wanted to edit a shift or delete a shift that users were in, you can go ahead and click that number out of whatever the total is, and you'll have the user's name. You can go ahead and click on that user's name. You'll be brought to their registration, and you can go ahead and send them a message letting them know that unfortunately this shift is no longer available, and encourage them to go back in the system and select a new shift. But you want to be aware prior to deleting shifts that nobody has actually selected that shift. And again, if they have, you want to make sure that you're communicating with them ahead of time. Any questions about editing shifts, creating new shifts, what that process looks like?
Just a real quick one. So this is, again, one of those things that only the top 3 users could do, because I tried to do here and I couldn't do anything in this stuff. Is that correct?
100%. And I think the intention with Jeremy, as we were talking about it, was that we want you guys to be familiar with this. And we want you guys to feel comfortable doing this because, as we sort of talked about in our initial trainings, as we get closer to the wire, as things happen, Jeremy's not going to be in the system necessarily as much. Talia may not be in the system quite as much. Brett may not be in the system quite as much. And we wanted you guys to feel comfortable that if we needed you to get in the system and do these pieces, you'd be able to. And even along the way, again, you can certainly use their login if they're comfortable with it. And if we make this general overall account for you guys, that we can also set up with higher level access. So for example, if you guys wanted to use that as a shared account between Larry, you and Francie and Michelle, you guys would be able to. You just have to communicate with one another when you were in there doing this work.
Thank you.
Of course. Any additional questions while I have you guys? Great. Thank you guys again so much for taking the time this morning with me to review this part of the system. Again, I will send you copies of this webinar, all sorts of follow-up tools, things to think about next. And I look forward to circling back with you guys. Probably our next training won't be for another 2 or 3 weeks, and we'll dive into some of the other pieces of managing the back end of the system. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.